Well, Gene, I've always had a enjoy reading books about history and archaeology and Americana. And one time, 14 or 15 years ago, I picked up a book in the library inadvertently about a young fellow who inherited an old water-powered stone grinding flour mill. And it was a very charming book. He told how he had to restore the mill pond and how he had to learn how to sharpen stones and how to grind cornmeal and flour and these type of things. And it was just an exciting book. I had my sons read it. My wife and I have three boys, and they got caught up in it. And for some reason or another, it just tickled our fancy, and we started to spend our vacations. I started writing letters, looking into the milling business, and there was a big change in the milling business about 1880. Up until that time, all the mills in the world used the old stone grinding millstones like we have in our mill. About 1880, the demand for white flour came into vogue, and they developed high-speed roller mills that could reduce the wheat kernel to the white flour that we see most today. And the old stone mills went by the wayside. They became museum pieces and this type of thing. But we discovered, after we read this book and got an interest in it, we discovered that there were a lot of these old mills around. Some of them were derelict. They hadn't run for years, but there was quite a few around. And so on our vacations, we started traveling, and we found an old mill in Fayetteville, North Carolina that had passed into the family. The miller had passed away, and they didn't know what to do with all this equipment. And so for a ridiculous price, we bought all the machinery in this old mill. We had 2 sets of the old millstones. These things are about 48 inches in diameter, and they're about 17 inches thick. They weigh about 2,000 pounds apiece. We brought these out to California in Redding, where I was living at the time with my sons, and we started as a hobby, Moore's Flour Mill. And that has been continued now. The boys doing quite well down there, and I retired and moved to Portland to go back to school.
Didn't last long.
No, about a year and a half, and I found this old mill building that we're sitting in, and started to go back into the mill business again.
Was this building outfitted then for a mill, or what?
No, actually, Gene, it had been a feed mill, and was built for that many, many years ago. But they took all the equipment out, and the building was just sitting vacant when I discovered it. Mm-hmm. And I went back to the road looking for equipment, and we were so very, very fortunate to find an old water-powered flour mill in Dufur, Oregon, that we got the mill equipment from that we have in the mill room today.
Yeah. Bob, can you explain the process a little bit? Why is the stone ground way of doing things so much better than, as you say, the speed roller?
Well, Gene, the old mill runs real slow. It keeps the grain cool. When you introduce the wheat into the center of this old millstone that's turning slowly, the wheat kernel is reduced. The bran, the germ, and the endosperm are all reduced to a fine flour. It mixes the oils and things together, and for some reason or another, it has characteristics that professional bakers really enjoy. We've been called upon to supply our whole grain flours to the Safeway Bakery. Fran's Bakery uses a lot of our flour. They make their stone ground whole grain breads from this. Mm-hmm. And it just has a little different baking characteristics, and for some reason or another does a real good job of making good bread. We get a truckload of hard red spring wheat from Montana at least once a week here, and then it goes into our bins, where we have 6 large bins at the front of the building, and one has hard wheat, one will have soft wheat, one will have rye in it, and corn, and soybeans. Each one of these bins can take a full truckload of grain. And we buy these from the farmers. We deal directly with the people that grow them. And we have a cleaning operation where we have grain cleaners, disc separators, pieces of equipment that will take the chaff and clean the grain. And then from there they go into the stone mills, which we'll see, and they're reduced to flour or cereals and that type of thing. By raising the stone a little bit, we can get a coarse grain such as a cracked wheat or a farina type grain.
And I understand that you even print your own bags.
Oh yeah, we wanted something to spiff up our image a little, Gene, and I just ran across an old 1889 Chandler and Price platen press. I paid $50 for it, and we brought it down here to the mill, and we print our own bags, and they look pretty good.
Now, you mentioned that you sell your product to Safeway and to Franz. Your product is also available here at the mill in your own country type store. Where else can one expect to see it?
Well, we recently started distributing our flour through like the United Grocers distributors, and most of the supermarkets in the Oregon area are tied in to this as a master warehouse. So it's available to many, many stores, and I have many people come in and tell me that they've seen our products in Medford, and they've seen it over in Pendleton and all kinds of places.
Under the name of Moore's
Oh,
Flour.
yes. And then, too, we, some years ago, we started to supply a good many of the grains and the packaged cereals and pancake mixes for the Fred Meyer Nutrition Centers. And that's been very good to us.
Let's talk just a little bit about success. Now, you make it sound as if it was just something to kind of pass your time. It's grown into considerably more than that, Bob, hasn't it?
Yeah, Gene, we work 16 hours a day. We start the mills at 6 in the morning, and we close at 10 at night, and we're here 10 hours a day. I don't work that many hours. But we have about 19 people here, including myself, believe it or not. It's just amazing to me how good that the Northwest, that Oregon has been to us. From the moment we opened the doors, it has been easy. People have come to the mill, they've bought from us because we're local, because we make good food and they like it. We've kind of ridden in on this whole grain thing, the high fiber. A lot of people have discovered that if they eat these whole grain cereals and if they eat whole grain breads and things, that they feel better. They're not hungry all the time. It kind of fills them up and holds them. And there's been a lot of books written about it, a lot of television coverage on this type of thing. And I think, frankly, Gene, that we've just kind of come in with the tide, and it hasn't been a lot of our own effort, because I've truly enjoyed what I'm doing.
Moore's Flour Mill. Well worth a visit just to see, even if you don't buy any of his flour products.